right already.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Son, you've kissed my wife. Baby, my heart's on fire.
It's been a long slog, but we finally have the last of the Studio Series 86 movie Leader Class Dinobots. And it's Swoop. With all the other really popular dinosaurs covered, Swoop was made a Pteranodon.
How about giving the Autobots a little extra flying power? A Pteranodon.
Excellent choices, Chip.
Good a reason as any, I guess. And what better way to top off the Leader Dinobot collection than with the one who gets shot down more than any other? See the Leader-sized Studio Series box with fire-puking art and easy open toy swapping access. See the same art flipped backwards on the side panel. And photos of both modes on the back, along with a mini bio reading, "Swoop and the Dinobots drop in to destroy Devastator." And they blew it, frankly. Behold Swoop's massive beak on the other side panel. Now let's get Swoop out of this box and see if he gets shot down in this review. Out of box, Studio Series 86 Leader Dinobot Swoop comes with his instruction booklet, a red plastic sword weapon accessory for Swoop, another red plastic sword accessory for Grimlock, 2 missile launcher accessories, and 2 red plastic gold-painted missile accessories. The missile accessories appear to be made of a softer-ish plastic, and they're made to be plugged into the missile launcher accessories. It's unlikely that you will ever remove them, unless you want to plug in a fire blast accessory instead. And of course there is the patented Studio Series cardboard diorama backdrop, in this case depicting the scene at Autobot City, where the Dinobots fought Devastator. If you've got a ton of free shelf space, then by all means use the backdrop to expand his presence. Swoop's alt mode is
A Pteranodon.
not a pterodactyl. Got that? And it's a good thing they were going for Generation 1 cartoon accuracy, because if it's a question of real-world anatomical accuracy, this thing couldn't look any less like a Pteranodon. Except for the wings and the head, Swoop is little more than an ungainly box, with teeny-tiny claw toes, which do nothing to help the figure actually stand. All the balance is achieved through these extraordinarily big and boxy legs, and the huge backpack attached to them. Hiding behind a stated desire for cartoon accuracy is the only excuse they could give for the ungainly appearance of the body. The robot chest and the robot arms are just hanging out there, with little attempt at making them blend in. It detracts from the overall appearance, because those parts are so large and noticeable. But if you can get around that, you can start to appreciate some of the things they did right. For example, the figure has lots of detailing, from front to back, top to bottom. It feels quite heavy and solid with no rattling, and no matter where you look, there doesn't appear to be much hollowness. They even added a roof to his dinosaur mouth with its own sculpted detailing, except on the bottoms of the missile launchers, which are completely hollowed out, which means third-party companies are going to be making filler kits. The colors are a slightly metallic gray, which matches the other Studio Series Dinobots, some gold highlights on the legs and on the beak, and some black plastic. The wings are a silver-ish color, matching other Dinobots like the ribcage panels on Sludge, but unlike other Dinobots, Swoop was drawn and animated with a blue torso, unlike the normal Dinobot red. And you know what that means? This figure is going to be getting a toy-accurate repaint eventually. For features, there are a few 5mm ports scattered across Swoop's body, 2 on the underside of each wing, 1 on the side of each shoulder, 1 on each side of his backpack, and 1 on the back itself. Any one of which can be used to mount the included accessories, or you can add any spare accessories with a compatible peg. And yes, he does have a mini fire blast port inside his mouth so that he can belch flames at his enemies. Looking over the figure, there's just something about the overall profile that seems too triangular. This figure has the wings on a 2-hinge setup, one at the shoulder and one at mid-joint. But the cartoon version had 3 hinges for a more graceful bend and more dynamic flapping. I rather wish they had truly made it cartoon accurate by adding that extra hinge. In the movie and the cartoon show, the upper and lower beak were also much closer in length. On this figure, Swoop has been given a massive overbite that makes him seem, well, a bit goonier. Aside from that, there is some dino mode articulation. The legs are completely immobile, but you can flip the dinky toe claws up and down, depending on whether or not you choose to display Swoop in a standing pose or in a flying pose. Fortunately, they did include a small peg on the underside, which does seem to be compatible with most display stand pegs. Just bear in mind that Dinobot Swoop is much heavier, so make sure you find a good center of balance so that the stand and the figure don't topple. The dinosaur neck does hinge up and down at the base. There's also another hinge just underneath the jaw. And of course the beak can open and close. The wings are set up curiously. Using the robot arm's shoulder joints, you can angle each wing very slightly up and down. Each wing plugs into the robot arm at 2 points. But if you disengage the wing from those pegs, you can get even more range of motion. The robot arm holds in place well enough without being plugged into the wing. I wish there was another peg and slot combination to plug it right into the robot hips, so that way the arm didn't depend on the wing to be motionless. And the middle of the wing joint has a dual hinge setup, which allows for good range of motion, either forwards or backwards. But again, that cartoon-accurate third joint at the wing would have made a huge difference when posing. All in all, the dino mode isn't the best I've seen. It's got some cartoon accuracy, but they didn't seem to go all the way with it, and I see no reason why they couldn't have. There's plenty of size and space on this to have put in more engineering to add another wing hinge, to extend the lower jaw, and a way to tab the robot arms to the body instead of the wings to free those up a bit more. A bit more time and a bit more effort, and they could have done all of that without interfering with the transformation. Swoop has one of the easiest transformations of the Studio Series Leader Class Dinobots. First de-accessorize, then untab the large backpack sections. They become the robot legs by folding them out and down, tipping down the toe claws to fill this gap, then folding down the robot feet, and folding out the heel spurs. Just doing that and you can walk this thing. Untab the dinosaur wings from the robot arms. Not difficult because they don't hold in all that firmly. For each dinosaur wing, take the wing tip, fold and invert it, tab it into place. You don't really do anything with the arms at all to transform them. You just fold out the robot fist from the interior of the forearms. The chest is a little bit difficult, but at least it's solid. Each half of the chest is on a dual hinge set. They separate and then swing outwards. Keep spreading them apart to give yourself plenty of room. Then take this flap underneath Swoop's head, fold it out, tilt down the head. This little cap on the beak is another bit that tabs in too tightly and it's difficult to separate. But you flip this little section up, and this releases the robot head. Then with the beak flush to this little blue tab, you angle the whole thing down into the robot chest cavity. Then reclamp the skull cap in place. Then these little round sections inside the robot chest clamp around these rounded sections of the dinosaur beak. Until the chest area is expanded in this manner, you won't have enough room to fold in the wing sections. Using this peg and tab combo, invert and fold the wings to compact them. Overall, the transformation is pretty easy for a leader class. Some tabs are a little harder to get apart, so be careful. The robot mode makes up for some of the less than awesome aspects of the beast mode. For starters, it's well proportioned, with a clean silhouette, though that's mostly because all of the parts that were kibble in the beast mode have become proper robot parts. The wings and the head crest are the only things that kind of stick out, but the wings make him look like a Decepticon seeker jet, and the head crest makes him look, well, like somebody tried to split his head open with a hatchet. Red, gray, silver, and gold are the colors you're looking at most, with a proper Generation 1 style head and face, and baby blue eyes. All of the sculpted detail looks neatly sculpted and painted clearly. If there's any spillage, it gets lost when you look at the figure in its entirety. And if you're poring over a mass-retailed figure for tiny imperfections to rail against, then you are doomed to a lifetime of miserable disappointment, imprisoned in a futile pursuit of perfection. Shame on you. Pretty much everything is solidly molded, except for these divots in the forearms, where you fold in the robot hands for the transformation, and also the undersides of the feet. And the feet could have used some beefing up, because they feel a bit thin compared to everything else. I get why they did it, but that doesn't make it any less vexing. And of course the missile launchers are still hollowed out. In addition to having 5mm ports in each hand, there is also an open port on the side of each shoulder, one on the outside of each ankle, two on the bottom of each foot, one on the front of each wing, one on the back of each wing, and one on his actual back. There's also a 3mm port on the back of his butt, which you can use to mount him to figure stands, but be wary because Swoop has a deal of heft to him, and most figure stands may not be able to handle the weight. The animation model always had the missile launchers plugged into the wings, even in robot mode. Me, I prefer to attach them to the shoulders to further enhance Swoop's Seeker Jet mojo. The sword with the easy carry handle is meant to be used by Swoop alone. The second sword that they threw in was meant to be given to Studio Series 86 leader Grimlock as penance from Hasbro, who seemed to recognize that they made a mistake by selling Grimlock with a horrible wheelie minifigure, instead of giving him his sword like everyone told them they should. But you can have Swoop keep both of them if you really want to. For articulation, the head will rotate 360 degrees on a ball socket joint and also waggle back and forth. The transformation hinge can have it bend forward even more. The dinosaur wings will fold in and out. Each shoulder will fully rotate, and there's a bit of a butterfly hinge in there to let it tilt in and out. There's an upper arm swivel, a 90-degree bend at the elbow. The fists will fold in and out as part of the transformation, but they're also mushroom pegged so that the fists will rotate in their sockets. Each leg is on a very soft ratchet and will kick forward this far before the hip parts bump into the torso. Make sure that the wing is out of the way, and the leg will kick backwards about this far. The legs will kick outwards all the way. The way the beak folds in, you would think that there would be no waist rotation, but there is. You can't get a full 360-degree rotation, but you can get about 30 degrees before the beak starts bumping into the pelvis. Upper thigh rotation. Each knee is double jointed and will bend fully backwards on itself. Because of the transformation, the feet will tilt backwards. The heel spurs will also tilt down. And yes, there is an ankle pivot. You have to be careful of the dinosaur claws around the knees when posing the legs. The feet are a bit too light, and I really wish they could tilt forwards, and that the hinges were tighter around the hips, since that's where most of the weight goes when posing. The dinosaur beak and torso interference can be a bit annoying, but most of the joints hold their poses, so if you have a decent figure stand, you can pose Swoop in all kinds of dynamic ways. Standing at over 9.5 inches, here is Studio Series 86 Leader Class Dinobot Swoop next to Voyager Earthrise Thundercracker. Here is Leader Dinobot Swoop next to Super 7 Ultimates Thundercats Vulture Man. And here is Studio Series 86 Leader Class Dinobot Swoop next to the Swedish Chef's Pet Chicken. The Dinobots were one of Generation 1 Transformers' first forays into pure awesome sauce. They were popular, appealing, and made for unique additions to the Autobot team. The 86 movie Studio Series Dinobots have been the updates that we've all secretly wanted for a long time. Figures that were bigger than the originals, with modern engineering and articulation. And generally, Hasbro has done good work on all of them, and Leader Swoop is no exception. He both fits in and tops off the Dinobot gang. Positives are genuine leader class size and heft, strong detailing and articulation in robot mode, options to accessorize and 4 accessories, vibrant colors, an easy transformation, and yes, no matter which mode you pick, Swoop will fit right in among the other leader Dinobots. Negatives, there are a couple of hollow spots in robot mode. The transformation may actually be too simple, and levering some of the panels apart for the robot mode is a bit difficult, and the Beast Pteranodon mode, while it may be mostly movie accurate, has some awkwardness beyond what you'd expect from a pterosaur. The stumpy, immobile beast legs with their microscopic toe claws, the big overbite, the massive backpack, the robot arms just hanging out there. It makes Swoop seem like the dino who got the least amount of effort while on the drawing board. Big as the wingspan is, it feels like it should be just a bit wider, and have another set of hinges for more articulation. But for all the flaws, it's still a good figure, and those who want to have all 5 of the original Dinobots in king-size leader form, you'll definitely want to pick this one up and make place for him among the other Dinobots. I give Studio Series 86 Leader Swoop 8 out of 10 deaths. He may get shot down a lot, but he's still riding high.
If you refuse me, honey, you lose me. Then you'll be left alone, oh baby. Tell them all and tell me I'm your own.